Welcome to the greatest movies never made. I am your host, Ryan Presky, and I am joined by my co-host, Adam Spring.
Hello.
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm doing good. It's been a good week. It's been Christmas week for those listeners at home, a little inside the curtain of when we record.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all. Did you get any good Christmas gifts, you little Christian boy?
I got a gaming chair, like a
Oh, this is
nerd.
what you got for Christmas.
Yeah,
Nice, nice. Yeah, I don't do too much for Christmas.
I thought you went to your dad's.
No, not anymore. I gave that tradition up. This
Why?
year I was working, quote unquote working.
What do you mean, like, you were
I
just
wasn't actually
watching
working, but
movies, pretty much?
yeah, usually my tradition is to watch Rocky 1 through 4 every Christmas, but I didn't this Christmas. I got a little caught up watching two of the movies that we're going to talk about today, which is Ghostbusters 2 and Ghostbusters the Reboot. So for those of you just listening, we're going to talk about Ghostbusters 3. Dan Aykroyd's unproduced script. He spent all this time writing it. He spent about 25, 30 years pursuing this project. And that's going to be our second episode. Ghostbusters. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Something I just learned right before we started recording is that you haven't seen the Ghostbusters before. This is your first time watching all three of them to
Yes.
completion, at least.
Yes, so when I was younger, I was probably like 6 or 7. I guess they were showing it in theaters. I know it wasn't just coming out or anything, but they were showing it at the movie theater. My dad took me to the first one, and the scene where Sigourney Weaver, what's her name, Dana, she's like floating over her bed, and the dog comes out of the closet or whatever. I was so scared. I had to leave. My dad wasn't too happy about that, but yeah, we left, and that's the last part I had ever seen up until this point.
The first one has a lot of scary moments in it.
It actually
Like
does.
genuinely scary moments.
Yeah, for a young kid, I'm surprised my dad was willing to even take me to it.
I remember I saw Ghostbusters the original when I was really young too, and it was one of my favorite movies growing up. And I remember being scared at a lot of scenes in it. I wasn't scared of the dogs as much. I remember being scared of the ghost librarian at the beginning.
Hmm. Yeah, that was actually kind of scary.
Even today, it kind of holds up.
Yeah, how she just like her face changes, and it's kind of like a jump scare, I guess. But it's I liked it. It's the CGI in that movie. Side note, kind of was obviously like not great, but that almost added to the charm of it. I loved that.
It definitely added to the charm of it, and I love the practical effects with some of those dogs. Like the dogs sometimes looked really good, but when they were CGI running
Yeah,
towards
that was exactly
Lewis,
that's what I
that's what they
pictured in
looked
my head, running across the streets of New York. It was like pretty bad, but I loved it.
I think the older generation always talks about Venkman, Bill Murray's character, as their favorite. Everyone loves Venkman.
Yeah, he's the man.
But as far as the Ghostbusters go, Egon was always my favorite.
Really?
growing up. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like him, but I mean Bill Murray, it's something about him is just too charming.
I love him now, but as a kid, I was always like, this guy's a little bit of a creep, especially in the first one.
Yeah, he is creeping on Dana pretty hard, I guess.
Creeping on Dana, he creeps on that little girl. Like, not the little girl. She's young. She's a college student at the very beginning of the film, and he's
Oh
doing this
yeah,
test.
yeah, the psychological tests.
Hmm. And my favorite character of all, 100%, in the Ghostbusters 1, in the Ghostbusters franchise, is Louis Tully, Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis is so good. Yeah, I thought he was really funny too.
Every scene he's in, he crushes it. And I read something on, I don't know, IMDb or somewhere that whole scene where he's at his party talking with all his guests.
Hmm.
Every line he says is so funny, in my opinion, and it was all improvised.
Oh, really?
And that just makes so much sense to me. Yeah.
That's great. I loved him. I thought he was great. The second I saw him, because like I said, I was probably like 6 or 7 the last time I saw this. I had totally forgotten he was in the movie, and it's such a great surprise. He was hilarious.
I loved him growing up. I loved him in this, obviously, because I saw it a lot. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I remember.
One of my favorites.
And then I saw Spaceballs when I was pretty young, too. So, like, three
Classic.
of my favorite movies growing up. He was in all three of them. So, Ghostbusters, a great movie. I think one of the all-time great comedies.
I had a great time watching it. I loved it.
I had such a blast watching it too. I just was smiling the whole time. There was only a few parts that seemed really off to me.
Hmm.
One of them is the Dan Aykroyd ghost blowjob scene.
Yeah, that was hilarious. It
So
was
strange.
weird, but I did laugh out loud. I can't lie. I thought that
I
was
laughed out
funny.
loud too, but it was just so out of
Maybe
nowhere.
kind of like a cringe laugh more than anything, though.
So Ghostbusters, I loved it. I thought it was great. And then we move into Ghostbusters 2. About, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years
5 years
later.
later, I believe.
And this is where stuff gets,
It starts going downhill a bit.
it starts definitely going downhill. But between this, there was the animated Ghostbusters series, which I actually,
I never watched.
I like. I started watching it pretty recently on Netflix,
Oh yeah?
and it's good. I also love the Ray Parker song, so
Is that the original
yeah,
theme
the
song?
Ghostbusters
Yeah,
theme.
that's
They
a good
play it at the
one.
beginning of every episode, so it's
I ain't
perfect
afraid
to fall
of no
asleep to.
ghosts.
Actually, another interesting fact about that: Ray Parker Jr. was sued by Huey Lewis.
Really? Why?
I don't know if a lot of people know this because apparently he was sued for plagiarism for ripping off Huey Lewis's song "I Want a New Drug,"
What is
which I
that?
never knew about this, but I
With
found
with
out
the
recently.
Ghostbusters song, you mean?
Yeah, and it does kind of sound similar, the musical elements to it, not the words obviously or the lyrics. Yeah, so Ghostbusters 2, there's some issues with it in my opinion. For one, the biggest one is the villain.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he's essentially not even in the movie until the very end.
No, and the villain in the painting,
Well, that's what I was referring
yeah,
to.
Vigo I think was his name. He could have been a scary villain,
Yeah.
but the fucking I don't even know what accent it was. He has some like
Some sort of European, fake European accent.
yeah, and the thing I hate most is that character was a little bit funny at the beginning.
Hmm.
When he came in and he was just like some weird creep.
Yeah.
I was okay with that. But then the weird possession stuff starts happening, and this movie kind of fell apart for me. I was dreading watching it. I was dreading it, but I actually found myself enjoying parts
Well,
of it.
yeah, going into it with no expectations, having not seen it, or really read anything about it, I did have fun watching it just because the first one was such a blast, but I could clearly tell that it just wasn't as good. There were some parts that were just kind of like too silly almost, and but there were also some with Vigo. There was one part that stands out in my mind that I did like though, that was kind of scary and fun, where he like locked them in that room where they were working on the pictures and started setting everything on fire and whatever. Like if they kept building on him as a villain with being able to do things like that, I think he would have been a lot better.
I thought as far as horror goes, there was zero compared to the first
No,
one.
no, no.
The first one was actually a horror comedy. There was scary moments and it was really
Hmm.
funny. This one, the comedy went down for sure, and there was nothing scary about it in my opinion.
Hmm.
But again, Rick Moranis killed every scene he was in. I was laughing so hard. Him and Janine.
Janine, yeah, I loved that.
That was the only good part of the movie for me. I found myself smiling every time he was on screen. That was okay with that.
He's a funny guy. You know, I did like that when they were hooking up. That was really funny. Yeah, I don't know. The pink slime and stuff that can like make toasters like really, what was it? It makes them start dancing and like I thought that was kind
I
of
think it was something
stupid.
to do with the slime is people's
Yeah, the
emotions.
positive and negative emotions.
So the music was giving them positive emotions. I don't know. I didn't love slime in the first one. I didn't love the slime in the second one or the third one. I feel like it's something that's unnecessary. But Dan Aykroyd was like, "Oh my god, everyone loves the
Gotta have
slime."
the slime.
But I don't know. Do they?
I mean,
I
I
love
it was
Slimer.
fine. That's the green ghost, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I liked him. The slime, like I don't know, it just made it kind of stupid to me at the end when they were all having to like sing along and clap and be cheerful for the villain to be defeated. And I don't know that all of New York needs to come together. Yeah, and the Statue of Liberty walking through the streets of Manhattan.
I hated that as a kid, and when I rewatched it, I was kind of like, "This is actually one of the only good parts of the movie because it was kind of fun,
It was
but it
fun.
just made no
It was
sense."
just like why? Why?
Let's bring everyone together with the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, I don't know.
Everyone's gonna start cheering and dancing like Santa Claus just appeared for the first time.
Hmm.
It was crazy. So the second one is obviously Step Down, and then we jump to 2016, the rebooted Ghostbusters, which apparently, seeing on Netflix, it's called Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which I never knew until right now. And this one, oh boy.
I give it a 1 out of 10.
I had the worst time rewatching it. I saw this movie in theaters, and I remember coming out of it being upset. But still, it's like, okay, I was in the theaters. At least, like, it looked cool, some of the effects
Mm-hmm.
and all that. Rewatching it, I just had such a bad time. I took a few notes, and my biggest note was just, how does this movie look so ugly? You know, it's like the second one with the slime, how they had this pink, gross slime.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, just every color is like this disgusting green or purple hewing off of everything. And
Yeah.
it just it literally made me sick.
I also hated the villain, Rowan or whatever.
The villain is terrible. It's nothing against the fact that it's all women, right? I
That
don't
is
care about that.
no, that's
Well, that
completely
was just a
irrelevant.
big issue with, the alt-right community right when
I
it
know
came out.
people thought that the people disliked it because it was all women, but no, it's just because it's a shit movie.
One of the notes I took down at one point watching the film was Kristen Wiig, just capitalized wig, because my God, her wig is so terrible throughout the whole movie too. I don't even notice that stuff ever, and I just couldn't look at her without being like, "What is on your head?"
I didn't think about that often, but now that you bring it up, yeah, it was pretty stupid looking.
And Kate McKinnon, people love her on SNL. She's never been my favorite SNL character. I like Cicely Strong, who in Ghostbusters the reboot was actually pretty funny.
Who's that again?
She had a small role. She was the president's executive or something.
Okay.
But I mean, Kate McKinnon, all her like just face humor, where she's just making these weird faces and doesn't seem like a real person at all, just pissed me the fuck off. And they had so many funny people in it. Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy. I'll say Kate McKinnon. Leslie Jones, I think, is really funny. But even these great like guest stars they had, like little characters like Zach Woods, hilarious. Steve Higgins.
Yeah, I love Zach Woods.
All these people they had for scenes, and none of their scenes worked.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part of all is the cameos. The cameos are so terrible. The only good cameo is Ernie Hudson, when he shows up at the very end.
Oh yeah.
That's the only one that really works. And then Janine's is fine.
I don't know. There was no part of it that I really. First of all, Ernie Hudson. I just as a side note, I found him so irrelevant
In which one?
in
All three
all
of them?
three of them.
Well,
He was just not important whatsoever. What was his name even in the movie again?
his name is Winston.
Winston, right? Yeah. I don't even know why he was a character.
Well, I mean, I was going to get into it a little bit later, but I'll just get into it now. So when the filming began, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, the writers, everyone involved, originally thought Eddie Murphy was going to be playing Winston.
They found someone that looked close enough to like him, though.
That's racist, sir.
It's not.
That's racist.
They look.
He does look a little bit
They
like
look a
him, but I don't
little.
think that's what it was.
It's like the mustache, a lot of it, but at least in the first one.
So yeah, it was going to be Eddie Murphy, but Eddie Murphy last minute turned it down so he could star in Beverly Hills Cop, which as a career move wasn't a bad career move. It actually
Probably a
made
good
sense.
idea.
Yeah, I mean, he cemented himself as a leading man, basically. So once Eddie Murphy turned it down, they changed the script. They took out a bunch of Winston's scenes, a bunch of his lines,
Hmm.
and then they recast it to Ernie Hudson, and they thought, okay, well, his character's not that involved. Originally in the script, Ernie Hudson was going to be introduced much early on, or not Ernie Hudson, Winston's character
Mhm.
would be introduced much early on. He would have been the one that got slimed at first
Okay.
instead of Bill Murray.
Right. Yeah, I guess that makes sense because throughout the entire thing, I was thinking like, especially in the second one, but in the first one, I was thinking like he seems like he's not really even doing anything. He's in like 5 scenes in the movie. But in the second one, he's in the opening scene, and then you don't see him again until like 3/4 through the movie.
My opinion on the second one is I think that was Dan Aykroyd just jerking himself off. Because I just watched it today where Dan Aykroyd's character, Ray,
Hmm.
is in every single scene, has every single moment that a writer would be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
You know?
being like dangled down into the sewers and
Being
stuff with the
dangled
pink
into the sewers.
pink
That was one. There was
river.
one where it's like, okay, we got to turn the Statue of Liberty into this dancing machine. Who's going to do it? Me and Winston.
Hmm.
Because Winston has to have something to do. And the people that wrote it were, I think, Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd. So
Mhm.
Harold Ramis is Egon.
Right.
So you never see Egon in any of those scenes
Yeah.
and it's because Harold Ramis is a really good writer, and I think in my mind he's like, I'm not gonna write all this stuff for me. I'm not gonna be like that self-righteous and all that. And Dan Aykroyd's like, oh no, this is the great stuff. I need it. I need it now. Even at the end when he gets possessed, it's like that.
Yeah, what was that? That was so stupid.
I don't understand the possessions in this franchise either. Another big question I have with this franchise is, what are the streams? Can the streams hurt
Oh, you
humans
mean like the from their
from the
packs?
proton packs?
Yeah. They don't explain that at all. I mean, I guess it's just maybe they do and I'm just forgetting, but I'm pretty sure that they don't say anything about it and you're just supposed to make it up in your head essentially.
I think there's like one line in the first one where it says, "Oh, it's harmless to humans," but then you see them shooting around and they're like explode
Destroying things.
furniture and stuff. I'm like, how could something explode furniture but not hurt humans? And they have this big rule where you can't cross the stream,
Across the streams, yeah.
but they're still shooting the stream at the same time. It's like if that's such a big deal, you can't cross the streams. You would never shoot in the same direction ever.
Right beside each other at the exact same
Ever.
target.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a problem with that though. I mean, it's because it was just like it was to me it was just like a fun
That's
thing.
what it is. It's a fun line because that wasn't in the original script either.
Yeah.
That was something they improvised and they added in to make it make sense.
hmm
But to me, it doesn't even make sense. What does it mean? It's like I guess it's a joke on like penises,
I guess so. Like peeing together, crossing
peeing,
streams.
or like some kind
If you're
of
peeing next to somebody.
or some kind of sexual thing. If there's like a threesome, like don't cross it.
Yeah, I don't know for certain, but I don't know. It seemed, I guess it was a bit of a plot hole, almost.
So overall, as a franchise, I think Ghostbusters, I don't know, shouldn't be held in the highest regard as a franchise. But the first one, oh my God,
So good.
so good.
Yeah. And talking about it now, I do actually really like Egon. After Bill Murray, he's probably my favorite. He's
Egon, yeah.
Egon, yeah.
Well, no one's favorite is Winston.
What? No, I don't think anyone because
And
he's
Ray
not even in the
sucks.
movie.
Ray sucks, honestly.
I'm okay with him. But yeah, Bill Murray. I mean, like I was saying, Bill Murray just to me overshadows everyone.
Yeah. He was obviously the one that brought the most people in too.
He's so funny.
So now that we've talked about the whole franchise, let's jump into what could have been. An alternate universe, if you will. So, almost immediately following Ghostbusters 2, it seemed like Aykroyd was working on the third installment. He wanted to keep this thing going, wanted to keep this alive. In 1999, the script was finalized by Dan Aykroyd and Tom Davis. Dan Aykroyd, some of his writing credits are he wrote for Saturday Night Live between 76 and 79. He wrote The Blues Brothers. He wrote Ghostbusters, the original, Dragnet, Ghostbusters 2, Nothing But Trouble, Coneheads, and Ghostbusters 2000. So out of those movies, 2 acclaimed movies, right? He's not the best writer, but I think he likes to think he is. And Tom Davis, he was a Saturday Night Live writer at the same time Dan Aykroyd was, and he really only wrote a series of SNL documentaries and best ofs. So he was just big in that world. And he actually died in July of 2012.
Rest in peace.
So yeah, the first draft was finished in May of 1999. The film was to be released in 3D and heavily feature CGI. So we saw the CGI went in the second one. Late 90s CGI. Oh boy. Well, I guess in the late 90s, that's 1999. It's when we got The Matrix. That's when CGI actually did get good.
Yeah, well, the second one was late 80s. It was at the very beginning. It was 89, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would have been better 10 years later.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's so many movies that I could remember from the 90s was just awful CGI.
Yeah.
Just the Mummy franchise comes to my mind.
I haven't seen that in forever. I actually love those movies.
Right now, the script in its entirety is not fully accessible. So a lot of the information surrounding the story and plot details are told from Dan Aykroyd during various interviews. And just other people have claimed to read the script. In it, characters would be transported to Manhattan. Do you want me to repeat that? Manhattan.
And what do you mean they're transported?
Manhattan is an alternate version of Manhattan,
Okay.
where people and places are hellish versions of themselves.
Okay.
It's kind of like an alternate dimension,
yeah.
the upside down.
Mm-hmm.
In it, Manhattan has become overcrowded, which leads the devil to send humans back to their world. The Ghostbusters use their new technology to transport to hell and bargain with the devil. There we meet the devil, and he has bigger plans, and the team, again, has to team up and save New York City. So basically the same
old theme.
Except now we're in hell doing it. And there's a younger group of Ghostbusters that fights alongside of them.
Oh, it's not just the OGs.
No, not just them. So some of the sources we have about the script include, like I said, Dan Aykroyd's interviews. So in a 1998 interview with Hollywood Online, he said, "Hell is not some distant place far away from this dimension or realm. Hell is right next door. It's like those old tintype photos where they turn them one way and they look positive. Then you just flick them slightly and they look negative. That's our concept."
Deep.
Yeah, you could say deep. It seems also a little generic. That's like what a sci-fi writer would say, like, "Oh,
the devil's inside all of us."
Yeah, there's another realm right beside us. All you have to do is look at it. It sounds like someone that thinks they're groundbreaking, but it's not that groundbreaking of a concept.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm just thinking that now in this post-Stranger Things world.
Yeah, well, maybe we're just used to seeing that, and it's like a watered-down theme at this point.
Yeah. On protoncharging.com, he was quoted, "Aykroyd has made Ghostbusters a full-blown corporation with dozens of employees, including mechanics to look after the fleet of converted ambulances. One shot echoes the shot of the Ecto-1 driving across Brooklyn Bridge. Only this time there's a whole line. They've also built themselves the Ecto-50, a converted truck with its own containment unit. Winston is a doctor, making him less relatable and more similar to Egon and Ray. And Venkman is noticeably absent from the film, presumably due to Murray not wanting to do another installment." So the project went quiet for a bit after 1999, where nothing happened with it, really, until 2005 when Harold Ramis and Aykroyd attempted to get the ball rolling again. Ramis was quoted as saying, "The dream plan is that Danny and I would produce it, I would direct, and we would recruit some new, younger, popular Ghostbusters to star." So just more of the same, just trying to get it back off the ground, not doing anything more interesting or groundbreaking.
So would the original characters be in it at all then? Was that part of the plan?
Right now, Harold Ramis and Aykroyd are writing it, so you would assume they'd be in it.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting thing with Winston, where all signs from Ramis's and Aykroyd's side point to Winston, Ernie Hudson, agreeing to be in it. However, Ernie Hudson in an interview said, "I've never heard of it," which also makes a lot of sense to me, that they just be like, "Oh, we don't need to tell Ernie.
Yeah.
He's going to do it."
He'll be in. Don't worry about Ernie.
Part of me feels bad for Ernie Hudson, but at the same time, it's like, I didn't know who he was before this. He got a huge opportunity to be with all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice to have more to do.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood.com reported that one of these young stars could have been Ben Stiller, playing a Venkman-esque character.
I guess I could see that.
The story still stuck fairly close to the 1999 draft with some minor additions. In a radio interview given in 2007, Aykroyd said, "We go to the hell side of Manhattan, downtown Foley Street. It's where all the cops are. They are blue minotaurs. Central Park is this huge, deep mine with green demons surrounded by black onyx 1,000-foot-high apartments and classic red devils inside. Inside the building, we meet a Trump-like character named Mr. Siffler, Luke Siffler, Lou Siffler, aka the devil."
Another pun. Nice. Manhattan and Lou Siffler.
And again, I just want to repeat, though, I was just reading a quote. I'm not trying to explain to you that his name was Lucifer. That's what Dan Aykroyd said. He said, "Mr. Lucifer, Luke Siffler, Lou Siffler."
Those are his
aka
words
the
exactly.
devil. Those are his words exactly.
That's hilarious. Really needing to explain that one there.
In the June 2016 issue of Empire, so 2016, still talking about this project, Aykroyd said he wanted Alec Baldwin to play the villain role, Mr. Luke Siffler.
Yeah.
Which in 2016, that's an easy thing to do. Baldwin's been playing the Trump impersonator on
Hmm.
SNL for probably a year at that point. If you're saying it's a Trump-like character, that's not very inspiring casting to be like, oh, let's get Donald Trump to play him. It's like, oh, okay.
I don't know though. I would like to see Alec Baldwin doing that,
I would have loved to see Alec Baldwin in Ghostbusters 3 in 1999.
but not now.
No, I'm over it now. In a 2012 interview with Esquire, Aykroyd emphasized that the third film would not lead directly into the fourth, and that he intended on only starring in the third and just writing the fourth and fifth. So he claimed that, oh, I was only going to star in the third, but then I'm going to keep writing it. It's still mine to write the fourth and fifth. He just can't let this
Yeah,
project go in my mind.
yeah,
He loves it too much.
he's attached.
He also said that Manhattan wasn't his idea for 3, but rather 4 or 5. So he had this whole vision of 4 or 5 once the franchise got rolling again. So that's the most of what we know. We also know that returning Ghostbusters would have been Dan Aykroyd as Ray Stantz. He would have came back, obviously. Harold Ramis as Egon. Like I said, Ernie Hudson apparently was going to come back, but I don't know if he knew.
He didn't know he was coming back. Yeah.
Yeah. Annie Potts as Janine was going to come back, the receptionist, secretary. And Rick Moranis was supposed to come back.
Hmm. No Bill Murray.
No Bill Murray, no Sigourney Weaver at that point.
Yeah, well, they were so famous at that point. I mean, I guess they still are, but yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
they still are. Sigourney Weaver's hands down the most famous out of all these people. And then probably Bill Murray right
Bill Murray,
after.
yeah.
Bill Murray did claim, which is pretty interesting. He claims that he's not a big sequel guy. That's why he didn't want to do.
He didn't even want to do the second one.
He didn't even want to do the second one. Harold Ramis said, so it was gonna be hard enough to get him to do the third. However, he has done sequels. He did Ghostbusters 2. He did Garfield 2.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot he was even in Garfield.
And he had a tiny role in Dumb and Dumber 2.
Was he in the first one?
No, he wasn't. He had a really tiny role. He was covered in a mask the whole time. Those movies on Rotten Tomatoes, Ghostbusters 2, 53%. Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties, 11%. And Dumb and Dumber, 29%. So maybe he's not wrong
Yeah,
to
maybe
not
he's
want
onto
to do it.
something.
So those were the returning characters. Some new characters we have that obviously weren't cast. Frankie, a body-pierced, tough New Jersey punker. Lovell, a dreadlocked dude. Moira, pretty but uptight gymnast and science graduate. Carla, a quote-unquote Latino beauty. Nat, a prepubescent genius with an abnormally large head. Despite age, he acts as the superior of the new team.
Okay. So these are the new Ghostbusters?
Yeah, and these are the new characters we had in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I assume those 4 or 5 were the Ghostbusters, and then we also had Luke Sifler, who was the devil. So what we know about this film is that the Ghostbusters are an actual corporation with a fleet of ecto cars. There's a younger group of busters. The Ghostbusters have more advanced technology. Winston is now a doctor. Hell is right next door and has become overcrowded. In Manhattan, everyone is their evil twin. And the big bad is the devil himself, a Trump-like character. So that's the film we almost got.
Yeah, I don't know.
It sounds a lot more like 2 than 1.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's what that's kind of almost what like number 2 was in a sense, like because they were saying that I forget exactly the part, but they were saying something how it's like a river to hell or something like that almost, I think.
I must have missed that. The first one is so good because it starts off kind of quiet, you know? It's like, oh, here's this one ghost in the library. Let's deal with that. They deal with it. They're like, oh, ghosts are real. And then they go deal with their first case in the hotel. And then the whole story becomes, okay, now we're dealing with Dana's character. And then only at the end does it become big. In the
Mm-hmm.
second one, it's like, oh, it has to be big the whole time. And this one seems like it has to be big the whole time, too.
Yeah, from the very get-go.
Them going to hell,
There's no build-up.
talking to the devil, going back to save New York, and then going back to deal with the devil in hell.
Yeah, that's part of what made the first one so good. Is just like first they just form the team and they're just like solving cases, having fun, and eventually things gradually get worse. Whereas in the second one, just like you said, I don't like that. I would just immediately you're just immediately shown all the issues and you know what's pretty much what they're up against right from the get-go.
I have a question. What do you think they would have used in the third one as like a gigantic creature to attack them in New York City. Like in the first, we had the State Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
Second, we had the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
It wasn't attacking them, but it was there.
Do they have? Is there something or?
There isn't something. I know there would have been something.
Okay. Let me think of something. Um. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they used another statue that was some kind of like giant minotaur or something like that you might see in a hellish setting.
Yeah, they did say there was huge, gigantic minotaurs.
Yeah.
That could be something like that.
Maybe they're trying to do something funny though. Again.
Something like the Hindenburg.
The
In the sky, there'd be like the Hindenburg.
flaming blimp just flying through the streets.
Like how the second one they had the Titanic roll up at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah. That would fit the theme of their like silly giant things showing
Mocking
up.
death.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's talk about the Bill Murray of the whole situation. The film hinged on the original cast returning to their roles. However, Bill Murray routinely would turn down coming back. Ivan Reitman said in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, like I said, look, he was not interested in doing the second one. He doesn't really like the idea of sequels, and we were burdened with him at the start. We got close a few times. Bill kept flirting. In the same interview, Aykroyd said, I never begrudged him not being in the third one, though I wrote a nice part for him in Hellbent, where the Ghostbusters go to hell. He's got a very high standard and a high bullshit detector. So this just goes to my point more of Dan Aykroyd jerking himself
Well, I
off.
mean, he's almost though suggesting that his own movie's bullshit. If unless he's saying Dan himself has a good bullshit detector, but it seems like he's saying
No, he is saying it basically.
that Bill has a good bullshit detector and that this movie's bullshit.
He's saying it just shows how I don't know. This is a quote. Though I wrote a nice part for him in Hellbent. What kind of writer says, "Oh, I wrote something so good, a really good part"?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's okay for someone to feel confident in their writing.
I don't know. But yeah, when he says I got a very high standard and a high bullshit detector, that just shows that
Yeah.
this
Then-
script wasn't up to par.
Yeah, exactly.
Bill Murray actually read a treatment of the script, and in an interview with Variety, he said, "I read one that Danny wrote. That was actually that was crazy bizarre and too crazy to comprehend. It was kind of funny, but not well executed.
That's basically just him nicely putting it
That it was garbage,
that it was yeah, that it was shit.
which I believe,
Yeah, me too. Just based on the little that I've heard already.
and based on his past writing credits. I mean, he wrote Ghostbusters, which is great, but I don't think he wrote that. I don't think that was really him.
Do you think it was mostly
I think it was a lot of Harold Ramis helping him, and that's it. That's all I can say about that matter with Dan Aykroyd. So the production of the film, Simon Brew of Den of Geek reported in December of 2012 that discussions between Sony and Aykroyd continued, and the studio had planned to film the following summer, but instead waited to make a decision based on the physical year. So in 2012, we could have still got this.
fiscal,
What did I say?
physical.
I thought it was physical because you guys like fight for at the end of the year for how much money you get. It was only at this time that Aykroyd started to question whether or not this film would get made. In 2012, so 20 years after. Yeah, now he started to doubt himself. And this led to his 2012 interview with Esquire, where Aykroyd said, because of the ever-shifting sands and natures of the motion picture business, I will just say that hopefully at some point it will be morphing into what is known as in the business as a production number. Aykroyd and Reitman worked for free to get this made for many years. I mean, I don't know how time-consuming it was for them. It was probably pretty leisurely. So one of the biggest issues of why it didn't get made was obviously Murray's non-involvement.
Yeah, I'm sure both him and Sigourney Weaver, if they were in it, probably would have been much more likely to be made.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know if a studio would be like, oh, so you're bringing back Sigourney Weaver's character? We're in. But 100%, if Bill Murray was like, I'm in, this movie would have been made.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I say Sigourney Weaver because she's a pretty face, and that does tend to bring more people into a theater, I think.
I do want to say though, Annie Potts, man,
Which one's that?
that was the receptionist.
Oh, you think so, eh?
I think she's a
I think Sigourney Weaver's a lot better looking than Janine.
For me, there's something about Sigourney Weaver, right? I don't find her like sexually attractive. Maybe it's because I saw Aliens, like when she's all like badass.
Yeah, she's kind of like that. She's in like the Marvel shows, right? She's the villain.
Defenders.
Yeah, she's the villain in Defenders, right?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe that image shows up in your head too.
Maybe. Another reason why the project was halted was due to the deal-making stage. Sources say that there's so much money pledged to each cast member that it would have been nearly impossible for the studio to make their nut back, basically. Which makes sense for Bill Murray, obviously. If you want him for a sequel, I bet he made it in his contract. You got to pay me big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense to me for Aykroyd. I think Aykroyd has this thing where he like would have been jealous of Murray for getting all this money, and he would have wanted the exact same money.
Thinks that they're on the same level.
But if he has such a passion for getting this movie made, he should have been like, okay, I'll take a cut.
I'll do whatever it takes, yeah.
Exactly. But he clearly wasn't doing that. And then obviously the death of Harold Ramis in 2014 and the rebooted film in 2016 kind of guaranteed that we weren't going to see this.
Harold Ramis was Egon, right?
Yeah.
How did he die?
I'm not sure. I want to say maybe cancer or something.
That's too bad.
That was also one of the only good cameos in the Ghostbusters, just his bust. I don't know if you remember, if you
I don't think I even realized.
Yeah, they have a bust of him in the college where one of them works.
Right.
You just see it when they walk by. And the only reason I say that was the best is because they didn't waste such talent in this garbage movie.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it for the sequel shifted a bit and changed the script into other things. But that's really it. That's where it started. That's where it began. And there's been some references to this script in particular throughout the years. In Ghostbusters International 11, there are several references, which is
What is that?
That's like a comic book kind of thing of the Ghostbusters.
So is Dan Aykroyd making all the money on the comic books also? Or
I don't know about all the money, but I imagine he makes a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's very insistent on being credited as.
It's fully his thing, right? It wasn't a thing before he made the first movie.
It wasn't a thing on SNL, if that's what you.
No, I mean, before the first movie was made, there was no comic. Like that was the beginning of Ghostbusters. Okay.
I don't want to say it's fully his, but I mean, yeah, he was the writer, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that anytime there's something that comes out, a video game, a short movie, it's always characters created by
Dan Aykroyd.
So he's not going to let these characters go. He wants to be credited. So in the Ghostbusters International 11, there's several references, including the character Lou Sifler, made it into the comic, Manhattan, and similar hellish landscapes are depicted in this issue. In addition to that, in 2009, Ghostbusters the video game, all 4 of the cast members reunited.
Really? To voice
their characters. And
that's cool.
In the game, it featured a character named Ivan Shando, opening up an alternate dimension to Manhattan. So Manhattan is canon in Ghostbusters.
Right. It's part of this. It's really part of the story.
Which that's the thing he
really wants it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I guess all the characters too, like you said, Lou Sifler. So are they still making comics and stuff for Ghostbusters or no?
To my knowledge, Ghostbusters International was never a huge thing. It's kind of like a yearly thing, an annual thing. But I don't know. It doesn't happen all the time. They release one. It's kind of a collector's edition. It's not a comic where you'd think like Spider-Man. It's not a story. I think it's more like kind of pictures and all that, just interesting things. So that's the end of Hellbent. However, like I said, the script changed a lot throughout the years. A lot of times Aykroyd stayed involved. Other times different writers tried to make something happen. So now we're going to talk about other possible sequels. There is one, Ghostbusters 3, which was written by Lee Eisenberg and Gene Stupinski. There was another one, Ghostbusters 3, called New Blood. Ghostbusters 3, The Best and Brightest. Ghostbusters 3, Electric Gozerloo. Ghostbusters Alive Again. And Ghostbusters Bromance. We're going to touch on all those very briefly.
And these were all potentially going to be the third movie.
A lot of them were almost as close in production as Hellbent was. One or two of them are joke ideas, basically.
Right.
But I thought I'd throw them in just to talk about them.
Okay.
So we'll start with Ghostbusters 3, which was written by Lee Eisenberg and Gene Stupinski in 2008. Those names might not sound super familiar with you, but they were the co-executive producers of The Office.
Okay.
They created Hello Ladies in 2013, and they wrote Bad Teacher in 2011 and Year One in 2009, which was directed by Harold Ramis. So that's why Harold Ramis had a connection with them, obviously.
Well, my guess is there's probably I can already tell why they aren't being. This isn't going to be made though because year one was pretty bad.
No, that was pretty
Bad
bad, but
teacher,
Bad Teacher
pretty
was okay.
bad. Well, I guess I don't know. I didn't love it.
I think this is more not being made for a few reasons, but one, I
Yeah,
think Harold Ramis was pushing for them and his passing, obviously.
right.
So due to the large gross each actor would receive, as I said earlier, they were all set to make so much money it would be hard for the studio to make anything.
Hmm.
The cast, they weren't even offered a deal until the script was complete and everything was ready to go. Aykroyd, Ramis, and Reitman were all consulting on the project, and Bill Murray had even expressed an interest in return.
Oh,
During the City of Amber screening, which is a movie Murray starred in, he spoke about the upcoming script and showed an interest due to the writers and their past work on The Office. Obviously, probably not
yeah.
year one, but
Well, didn't you say they're executive producers on The Office though?
co-executive producers. I think they also wrote for some episodes.
Mm.
I just didn't put that in there. I didn't want to write like, oh, they wrote 5 episodes of
Yeah.
The Office. Co-executive producer. It's pretty big.
Doesn't that mostly have to do with like money though? When you're an
Not in
executive producer?
television. It's different.
No.
In television, you have a lot more say, I think, when you're a producer.
Hmm.
And that's not true always for films too. A lot of film producers have a lot of input, but some like to just finance it and step back. He also went on to say that enough wounds have passed since the time of Ghostbusters 3.
So when is this?
This is in 2008.
Okay.
That's when it was written.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if this was because you said that Dan Aykroyd has been talking about this like up until even 2015, I think you said. So I just wasn't sure if this is after that or I just wanted to make sure.
2016.
2016, yeah. So this is in 2008 though that they were planning on making this movie.
Yep. Obviously, when you hear the writers involved, and after the time had passed with Ghostbusters 2, and then even reuniting with all his fellow cast members last year to do the video game, this is when Bill Murray started to be like, okay, I could get back into this. However, nothing came from it. That script went away and died. That's really all we know about it.
Too bad.
So the next script we have is Ghostbusters 3, New Blood. And this one is kind of taking the Aykroyd script and adapting it to a different time.
The Aykroyd version.
The Hellbent.
Okay.
Ghostbusters Hellbent. So in 2011, Aykroyd talked about a much different script and a more realistic approach. When addressing Bill Murray's refusal to play the role in the film, Aykroyd stressed that the point of the film was to literally and figuratively pass the torch of busting down to a new generation. Part of the reasoning for that would be that the original Ghostbusters just couldn't hang it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This would include the character of Ray. Dan Aykroyd's character is now blind. He can't drive the Ecto-1. He also has a bad knee and can't carry the proton packs. Egon has put on some weight and is too large to fit in his harness. And he doesn't really go into what's going on with Winston, obviously. Dana's son would now be a Ghostbuster, and Dr. Venkman would be a ghost.
Oh,
Presumably because Bill Murray.
because he didn't want to be in it.
It was unclear whether or not Ernie Hudson would return to the role. Again, though, the actor was not approached apparently at this time for this film.
Once again, I had no idea.
I think they're just keeping him out of it. And I think it could have been due to the salary they all would have received if they were even consulting with them. And I wouldn't be surprised if Aykroyd's like, we don't need Ernie. We don't need his input.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they don't. Aykroyd announces that filming will begin in spring of 2012. However, production never got far enough along with anyone officially cast. However, they were looking for 3 young guys and 1 young female, presumably to keep the same dynamic that they had in the first 2. A name that was discussed a lot was Matthew Gray Gubler.
Who's that?
Who I know who he is. He's the star of Criminal Minds. So I don't know if you've ever seen that show.
Long hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I looked at his IMDb and it's crazy. That show has he's been on like 430 episodes.
Yeah, it's
Criminal Minds.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how many episodes they've gotten of that.
But it's weird you don't see that guy out anywhere else.
No. Well, I mean, I guess Criminal Minds is just a huge show, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he must not even need to do anything. But you'd think that he would be in like at least a guest role in other things and stuff.
As something else.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's what we know about New Blood. And now we move on to Ghostbusters, The Best and the Brightest. So this one, I'm not sure how accurate it was.
Who is this one by?
This one again by Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, okay. So he gave up on Hellbent at
this
point.
One is a continuation of the adaptation of Hellbent.
Okay.
It's his first draft that's just being adapted throughout the years. And this one might not be as serious either. It might have just been him being a little facetious or a little
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, jokey with Larry King. But in a 2013 interview with Larry King, Aykroyd said that filming would hinge on the next generation since they solved the movie's big problem. The film's pressing issue was particle physics and how they affect our four dimensions, which I don't even understand what it is. I kind of tried to do some research and I couldn't get it going. This is based on research done by Columbia University, which showed that the world and dimension we live in is being threatened by some kind of forces. This research is currently being done at Navis Labs and is trying to address many of the key open issues in understanding of the fundamental forces and properties of matter. They are also involved in developing future facilities and future detector technologies. The new Ghostbusters would star as Columbia students, with action taking place in the university neighborhood Morningside Heights. The film would bring back the original cast plus a cameo from Larry King and a role for Murray if he would accept. So this one really dives into no new detail. It just talks about some kind of bullshit particle physics. That's why I don't know how legit this one is. This one could have been like a Larry King brought up, there's some new research going on at Columbia University. Caller, what do you think? And Aykroyd's sitting with him. He's like, oh, that's actually what the new Ghostbusters is about. You're welcome to come in and have a role.
Just trying to get people excited.
So next up, we're going to talk about our first obvious joke, which is Ghostbusters 3 Electric Gozer Lou.
Gozer was the villain in the first one, right?
Yeah. And I'm having a hard time remembering. Was Gozer the like kind of female?
The female, yeah.
Thing that came out at the end?
Yeah.
Okay. In 2014, Max Landis, who's the son of John Landis, he's a writer and director, a little controversial right now, but he tweeted his plot details for the third installment. So this is why it's obviously a joke. He tweeted it. He wrote such things like Chronicle, American Ultra, Mr. Right, Victor Frankenstein, Bright, and he's the creator of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which I don't watch.
Never heard of it.
A lot of the other things I've seen, I don't think he's the best writer. I think he takes ideas that have been out there and he does his own little spin and thinks, again, he's like super creative with it, which I don't think he is. And this kind of shows in his idea. So the movie would start off with Ivan Shandor, who was the video game character I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Gozer cult leader, and he murders Slimer. That's at the beginning of the film. The Ghostbusters have become a global franchise, but branched out into various teams. The main business is a parody of itself, similar to the beginning of the second one,
where they were
doing
like performing it. Yeah. Okay.
But they're slowly going bankrupt, which is again basically the
same thing.
The main hope is to boost business, so the gang decides to resurrect a minor ghost, only to accidentally bring back Gozer. So that's basically his whole plot. It's not even funny. That's why I said it's more of the only joke thing of it was the title. It's like, oh, I have a funny tweet, which is basically what it is. It's a tweet of a title. I have a funny possible title for the new reboot.
Electric Gozer Lou.
Yeah. But he did go on to say that his vision would include pairing together a modern comedy clique just to give the back and forth, basically. So like a Parks and Rec gang, like Offerman, Pratt, Aziz Ansari, a Rogan and Franco, or like a Kroll, Key and Peele matchup.
Right. Yeah,
which is the only part of his whole thing I like. Because that I think would work for Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Any of those groups.
I mean, like you said, though, they were all split into separate segments. So if they somehow got a bunch of groups of good duos or trios or whatever, that could be pretty funny.
Yeah. Kind of like what they're doing with the new Men in Black, where it's just like a new duo.
I didn't know they were doing another Men in Black. Or did they already make one?
No, they're making it. Like the trailer just came out not too long ago. Chris Hemsworth and what's her name? Valkyrie from
Ragnarok.
From Ragnarok.
I don't remember her name, but I know Chris Hemsworth is Thor, right? It's not Liam. Okay.
She's also the girl from Creed.
I know exactly who you're talking about, but do you want me to look her up?
I'll move past it. Yeah.
You want me to look her up or no?
No, it's fine. I'll move past it. So that was his idea. Whatever. Get out of here, Mark Landis. And the next one was Ghostbusters Alive Again. In 2013, Ivan Reitman, he also wanted to pass the baton down to a new generation, but he actually had characters in mind. The film would feature Chris Venkman's son, with casting eyeing Adam Pally from Mindy Project.
Who's Chris Venkman?
No, it would feature Chris, comma
Oh, Venkman's.
Venkman's son.
Okay.
Casting was eyeing Adam Pally of Mindy Project, Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny,
Uh-huh.
or Jesse Eisenberg from The Social Network.
Quick side note, I haven't seen Jesse Eisenberg in anything in a while. I like him. He's not in anything these days.
I'm trying to think of the last thing I saw him in. I saw him in, obviously, Batman v Superman.
Yeah, that's probably I feel like that's the most recent thing he's been in. And he wasn't that, I mean, I don't know.
He
wasn't that good in it.
No, he was the worst part in it.
But I mean, I love The Social Network. I loved Zombieland. He's really good. Anyways.
He has a niche to him, you know?
Yeah, he generally plays
Like,
similar
kinda like a Michael
characters.
Cera.
Yeah, he's really good at those characters though.
Yeah, he is.
He was good in what is it? Not Catch Me If You Can. The heist movies where they're like magicians.
Now You See Me?
Now You See Me. Yeah.
I didn't see any of them.
Oh.
Not my thing. I mean, he's fine. It's hard for a guy like Michael Cera. He was so public about it. No, he wasn't so public, but you could tell there was a few years where he was hating being cast as the same kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
And they might have a lot of roles for you, but it seems like it's hard to find a leading role with that character all the time.
Yeah, I guess it does kind of like suck and to be kind of stuck in the same character, the same role every time. But I mean, it's just kind of a testament to how good he was at playing that character. Like George Michael, one of my favorite, probably still my favorite Michael Cera role ever.
I think it's his best for sure too.
Yeah.
Chris would join a team that was led by Jeremy, who was to be played by Jonah Hill. Dean, the comic relief, would be played by Zach Galifianakis. Villain to be named Janeko, and he was to be played by either Sacha Baron Cohen or Will Ferrell.
This sounds like it would be an amazing cast.
It does sound like an amazing movie and cast, but all I could really find on this movie was the possible casting rumors.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me assume it's the same kind of adapted script throughout the years, that what Hellbent started as to where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
There was going to be two female characters, Ashley and Joni, and they were looking at Rebel Wilson and Aubrey Plaza to play them.
Rebel Wilson, is she the redhead?
Rebel Wilson is the...
Oh, she's in
Pitch Perfect.
Pitch Perfect, yeah.
A small role to be played by Aziz Ansari, with a character named John, and the story would loosely be based on the New Blood treatment. So the New Blood treatment was the one that was kind of it was loosely based on the Hellbent one. So that brings us to an end of the Aykroyd Assance, where he was pushing for his script to get made and his vision, his name behind the Ghostbusters he wanted. And now we move into the 2016 version, Ghostbusters Answer the Call, apparently. And with that, at the same time, or a year later, but at the same time to exist with these new characters in this franchise, they were going to make Ghostbusters Bromance. So rumors surfaced that with all female reboot, Sony was going to form its own company called Ghost Corps. And I believe they actually did. I believe when you watch Ghostbusters 2016, one of the studios highlighted at the beginning of the film is Ghost Corps. So the idea of creating Ghost Corps was to create a bigger brand of Ghostbusters things. Not only this female reboot,
Right.
but to also create an all-male counterpart, which is weird to say all-male counterpart.
Yeah.
The intention was to bring together the Russo brothers as directors of Avengers Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Civil War, all those ones. Drew Pearce to write, who wrote Iron Man 3, and producers Reed, Caroline, Peter Kiernan, and Channing Tatum, who is also going to star.
That could be pretty interesting.
I think it would have been really interesting. So this would have been the first step they were going to take in their plan to expand the universe, like I said, through films, television, merchandising, and more. In an interview with Screen Rant, one of the producers, Reed Caroline, said, "We are not doing that anymore. No, I don't think so. I think it's too complicated. There's a lot of things going on with the brand, and I feel like it's oversaturated." Which I disagree on.
Maybe that was that after this movie was released? Because maybe that had a lot to do with it, probably.
Yeah, 100%. The reception the reboot or remake had turned everyone off of Ghostbusters.
It's really unfortunate after watching the first one.
It is too bad,
I
but
loved
maybe the
it.
Ghostbusters should have died with the first one.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking, rewatching them all. Maybe it would have been best if it was just, this is a
one movie.
great comedy, and that's it. You get one and you're done.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with a lot of comedy sequels. I mean, you see it all the time with comedy, which
Mhm.
it's so hard to do a good sequel. Very few good ones, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Trying to think of any, and I can't at the moment.
A lot of people go to Adam's Family, the sequel, but I'm just not a big. I haven't seen it at least in a while. The Christmas Vacation, that's good. The vacation movies, like their sequels are okay.
Mhm.
That's really it.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, The
don't know.
Hangover is the biggest example of a terrible one.
Bad, 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 bad. Yeah, that like because the first one was amazing.
Yeah.
If they just left it at that, it would have been so much better.
Well, that's how it happens too. The first one's so good, it makes such an
Yeah,
impact that they're like, we gotta
we
greenlight a
have.
second
Yeah,
one.
let's milk this.
I'm trying to think. I like the idea of, oh, this movie is so big. Let's keep this writer, keep this director, and keep the stars. Just a completely different story. And there's a lot of comedy groups that do that. They just work together, like
Seth Rogen and James Franco.
or like Broken Lizard,
Who's that?
who's the guys that did uh, Club Dread. What is the other ones they did? The big ones. All I'm thinking of their small ones: Club Dread, Slam and Salmon, Super Troopers.
Oh,
Those guys, they just work together as a crew. Key and Peele too,
yeah.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that's all we really know about possible Ghostbusters movies. Anyone you think would have been the best out of those ones that you can remember?
Yeah, the bromance sounds kind of funny.
The bromance sounds good just because all the people attached.
Yeah, I'd like. I mean, I love movies like that that have tons of good actors in them.
Yeah, and I would have liked to see in this Ghostbusters franchise continued. You know,
Like, what do you mean? This franchise, like the 2016
I
franchise?
think the 2016 one is the worst by far out of all of
Like,
them.
which franchise are you referring to?
I'm talking about Ghostbusters
Just
altogether.
as a whole.
Yeah, but I mean, with this bromance one, I wouldn't have been all up in arms. I wouldn't have boycotted the theater if they were like, okay, this is the bromance one, but Kristen Wiig's character is in it too. Melissa McCarthy's character's in it, or they're all cameoing in it to show
Yeah.
it's one big universe.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be like, oh, fuck that, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah,
I'd
I
still
would
say,
still see
okay.
it. I'd give
I
it a
would see a
shot.
sequel even.
I don't know. Well, I mean, hey, I'd give it a shot, but
It would be tough for me, but I'd see it. I wouldn't go to the
I'd
theaters.
have pretty low expectations. They'd need to do a lot to win me over.
hmm So let's talk about the future of the Ghostbusters then. For 30 years, obviously, Aykroyd kept the dream alive for the third installment. He wants back in. And during a 2018 episode of The Big Interview with Dan Rather, Aykroyd said, there is a possibility of a reunion with the three remaining Ghostbusters, and a script is being written now.
Really?
That's what he says. One person I would not want to trust or bet money on is Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, he did say that Winston was going to be in the next movie, and what's his real name again?
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson. Had no idea. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you asked Bill Murray and he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I hope not, because if he is into the idea, that would be pretty cool.
I'm sure Aykroyd calls him all the time.
Every day.
For real.
Like texts, emails, calls.
In March of 2015, Aykroyd and Reitman created the company, like I said, Ghost Corps, to develop more projects, which was formed by Sony Pictures. So Ghost Corps exists still. It's not like they created and they were like, okay, toss it. It still exists, and I'm pretty sure Aykroyd has a great passion for it. He wants to see it succeed. Ghost Corps is trying to get something moving, and while it may not be the Ghostbusters reunion, an animated feature film told from the perspective of the ghosts has been a possibility for a 2019-2020 release date.
Hmm.
The project was announced in 2016 with Clash of Clans short director Fletcher Moles on board to direct. Ivan Reitman has been working as an executive producer over the past 7 years and suggests the plan is for a new Ghostbusters movie to hit theaters in 2019, which all signs point to it being the animated one
Oh yeah.
over the reunion.
Right.
I would think so. If he's been working on it since 2016.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like 3 years animated film. Should be good.
Yeah. I would like to see Bill Murray in something though.
Yeah. Well, here's my thought on the animated film. I mean, like I said, the animated series, The Real Ghostbusters, it had 7 seasons in the 90s, which kind of proved the success in all mediums. It'll work on an animated, it'll
Hmm.
work live action. So I also think if it's told from the ghost perspective, that kind of gives a new light to the
Yeah,
Ghostbusters we've ever seen. Like imagine a story told by Slimer
yeah.
running around like
The hotel and stuff.
yeah, or the firehouse where they work, just
Yeah,
just hanging out.
that'd be pretty funny.
So I think an animated sequel actually could be
Yeah.
really good.
I mean, they can do a lot more with it, obviously. I mean, I
For
guess maybe
sure.
not more than they could now, but just compared to what they could do back in the 80s when they made the first Ghostbusters, there could be so much more.
And like financially speaking,
Yeah, way less.
100% the way to go
Yeah.
with such a flop that you just had. Yeah, this will make money. I don't think they're gonna go PG or I mean G, but I think it'll be like an animated PG-13 movie, like a Pixar level of intense stuff. Now it's not gonna be one of those like
Mhm.
sausage. It's not gonna be Sausage Party.
Yeah, one of the adult
Yeah.
cartoons.
So something fun I thought we might think about is Ghostbusters in another universe. I brought it up a little bit, but what if Eddie Murphy had starred in Ghostbusters?
Well, I mean, they probably would have. I don't know, to be honest. It maybe would have been an entirely different movie, and because the first one it focused mostly on Bill, uh, or what I should say, Peter, Egon, and Ray. And I don't know, maybe just adding a fourth person to that dynamic would just completely change the whole thing. Maybe it wouldn't have been as good. I mean, I don't know, because I do love Eddie Murphy. He's obviously hilarious and a great actor. Um, but if it focus, I think having a fourth lead maybe would have been too much even. So it's even a good thing that he wasn't in it.
I think when you look at Eddie Murphy's career, I don't think this film would have changed it too drastically.
Mhm.
I because like I said, he did Beverly Hills Cop instead of this film, so that
Yeah.
showed the whole business that he could lead a film by
Yeah.
himself instead of being part of a great ensemble. However, if he was in it, he would have been part of something so much not well, I don't know, so much bigger.
Just something that would have been it's kind of like an icon.
Yeah, and the thing is, he didn't do this franchise to do his own franchise. Beverly Hills Cop became a franchise, so it's not like he's missing out on something he isn't experienced.
Mhm.
He's created plenty of iconic characters. This just would have been another one.
Mhm. Well, would it have been though? That's what I was saying.
I think it would have, because like I said, the character was written. They
Mhm.
fixed the script once they found out Eddie Murphy wasn't doing
Yeah. No, but yeah, I'm just saying, like, if we had less Bill and less, or I keep saying Bill, less Peter and less Egon, would it have still have been as good? If we had, I mean, like I said, I love Eddie Murphy, but I don't know, maybe it would have just been totally different.
it. It would have been totally different. I don't know. I love Eddie Murphy too. I like Eddie Murphy more than Bill Murray personally.
Mhm.
So I think it couldn't have hurt. I mean, I don't know. I think you would have still got a lot more Bill Murray. I don't know Harold Ramis, obviously. I mean, he's fucking dead. I never met him before that. I'm not going to meet him now. But I imagine that if he was writing this still with Aykroyd, he would have been like, okay, let's cut some of my stuff out and
Put more Eddie.
put more Eddie in. Put
Yeah.
more Eddie, put more Bill in. And he'd probably be like, Aykroyd, let's take some of your stuff out. But he would have been, no,
Fuck you, man.
So he would have been smart enough to not, because Harold Ramis was also a director, right? He knows how to direct and deal with people. I'm sure he knows how to deal with Dan Aykroyd.
Mhm.
So just some additional little Ghostbusters facts I thought were fun. These are from Ghostbusters 1. John Belushi was in mind for the role of playing Peter Venkman before passing away while the film was being written.
Hmm.
John Candy was to play the role of Louis Tully.
Who's John Candy?
John Candy, Uncle Buck.
Maybe I probably know if I saw him.
Michael Keaton and Chevy Chase were considered for Peter Venkman as well.
Hmm.
The original title was Ghost Smashers.
Good thing they changed that.
Christopher Walken, John Lithgow, Christopher Lloyd, and Jeff Goldblum were all considered to play Egon.
Hmm.
Larry King, Debbie Gibson, and Ron Jeremy,
The porn star.
they all appeared in the film.
Wait, they did?
Yep, they had small cameo roles. I remember seeing Larry King for sure. He was like a little role on the TV, and he was also in the second one. That's why Aykroyd had that joke. Oh, and he'll be back in the third.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely didn't notice any of them.
I didn't notice Debbie Gibson or Ron Jeremy. I think Ron Jeremy is literally an extra, but
Right.
he's still in it. Years after the film, William Atherton, who was the villain of the film, was routinely harassed around New York City. He would get in bar fights.
The villain of the first?
The villain of the first. It's weird to say the villain. He was kind of I forget what it was, like the police.
Oh, the guy that wanted to shut them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, Ray Parker Jr. was sued by Huey Lewis,
Hmm.
claims of plagiarism, and the matters were settled outside of court.
So let's go back to the guy that played Peck, the officer that was trying to shut them down. Well, what about people harassed him?
People, it's such, at the time it was a huge phenomenon, right?
Yeah,
So everyone saw
like hated him just
Yeah.
because of his character, kind of like Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it took place in New York. I think they try to make it like, oh, we're this New York movie. We're this New York movie, you know? In the first one and second one, at least. I guess in the reboot, too.
Hmm.
And I think it's just a bunch of New Yorkers. We're just like, oh, you don't love New York. Get out of here.
Oh, God.
And we just try to fight them.
That's interesting.
So some facts about the second one. The role of Vigo was played by Wilhelm von Hamburg, but dubbed by Max von Sydow. And Wilhelm was not made aware of this, had no idea. And he went to the screening, and he heard that his voice was being dubbed, and he walked out.
God. Very professional, Dan Aykroyd.
I don't know if that was Dan Aykroyd, but can you imagine being like, oh my God, I'm in the biggest sequel of all time. I'm the main villain. And then being dubbed
Fully dubbed over, yeah. That would be crushed.
without knowing. If you knew.
Yeah, how can you not say anything? I bet you Dan Aykroyd had something to do with it.
Both of Ivan Reitman's children appeared in the film, as well as Bill Murray's brother, Brian Doyle Murray.
Oh, who is he?
Brian Doyle Murray was... Remember when they get admitted to the psych ward?
Yeah.
He was the guy that admitted them.
Huh.
And I remember when I watched it, I was like, that actually looks like Bill Murray.
Does he act, or is he just in this
I think
one?
he is an actor, yeah.
Huh.
And Ivan Reitman's kids, one of them was just an extra, and the other one was the one at the birthday party that called them assholes.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of his kids. And Cheech Marin, Ben Stein, Chloe Webb, Bobby Brown, and Larry King also appeared in the film. Small cameos. Now for the reboot, Emma Stone turned down a role to star in the film.
Emma Stone, sorry, she's the one that's in like Zombieland and Superbad, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Alyssa Milano and Anna Faris were also discussed for playing lead roles. The film holds the title for the most disliked film trailer of all time on YouTube
Really?
to this day.
What's how many? Do we know?
1.1 million dislikes.
Oh, God.
And a lot of that is alt-right people, I think. I think that's why it is there, because it doesn't deserve to be the most disliked trailer of all time.
Yeah.
You know? The movie, it's not good. But the trailer, when it came out, wasn't a terrible trailer. I remember watching the trailer and being like, oh my God, this is kind of exciting just to have the Ghostbusters back. I do remember watching and be like, there's nothing funny here, though. Like, I didn't laugh. But I think everyone just disliked it because they were like, women? Not my Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters are men only.
Well, I mean, how can you cross streams with a vagina?
Can't. So, fuck off, Melissa McCarthy, you're out.
Well, she's got a dick. Jennifer Lawrence and Rebel Wilson were also considered for roles. So Rebel Wilson's been circling this Ghostbusters for a while.
Maybe Jennifer Lawrence could have made it funny, though. I like her.
Jennifer Lawrence?
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence is probably the one I want to see least out of all the people I named.
Well, I just say her.
I hate Jennifer Lawrence.
Really? Why?
I don't think she's that great of an actress. She's good. I don't see her better than any other actress, and I don't know, something about her personality
Really? Maybe that's...
pees me off.
I like her personality. Maybe I'm thrown, though, just by how attractive she is, and it's making my judgments a little skewed.
Easy there. So that's kind of all the facts I have on Ghostbusters. Before we wrap anything up, there's two things I want to say. First thing is, in the reboot, they take Ray Parker's amazing, maybe plagiarized song, but amazing song nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember this part, but they do a Fall Out Boy cover adaptation in the 2016 version.
Yeah.
That is one of the most terrible fucking things I've ever heard in my whole
It's like
life.
disgraceful.
It is disgraceful. Because right when Ghostbusters, the reboot started, I was like, oh my god, yeah, I'm in. Because it starts with the Ray Parker, dun, 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 the first like 10 seconds. But that's it. You only hear 10 seconds of the original one. And then when they're driving down their Ecto 1 the first time, they play this Fallout Missy Elliott version. And it was so bad, I wanted to...
Yeah, that sounds. It's. I didn't even realize that it was supposed to be the same song. Maybe like because I until you say that now, I'm like maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
It was so
But
bad.
God, that sounds awful. How can you do that? How can you take like the iconic music that everyone loves and just turn it into that?
Exactly, especially when it's already so amazing as it is.
Yeah.
I think it was like 9 weeks in the #1. I think it was the biggest song of that year.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, I think I think I'm almost 100% it was the biggest song of that year, which is pretty crazy. A theme song for a movie.
Yeah.
It's become that big.
It was so good.
But I still listen to it. I'll listen to it anytime it's on the radio. I'm listening to it. And it doesn't even matter if it's... I don't think about even Ghostbusters. I just think about the song.
The song, yeah.
So before we wrap things up, maybe give our final thoughts on Ghostbusters. When I was watching this movie, I had an interesting thought. I thought, my friend Adam, he used to tell me this story when I was growing up that he had an encounter with a ghost. And I never personally have. But I'm starting to become more open to the idea of them. Right? I have become open the past few years. And I'm scared to ever see them. But I want to know, Yidzi, Adam, please, if you don't mind indulging us on your memories of your ghost encounter.
Well,
And who would you have called?
obviously the Ghostbusters. So I was at my aunt's house. This is when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. As far as I can recall, I was really young, regardless. And it was around Christmas time. I'm at my aunt's house, and I walk out into the hallway, and there's some man sitting on the chair, big white beard, checkered shirt with he has like strap. What are they called again? The things that go over your shoulders to hold your pants up. Suspenders on. And I'm talking to him for a little bit, and then I go back into the living room and ask my mom and my aunt, "Who's this guy in the hallway?" And she says, "Oh, everyone seems to see him at least once when they come into this house, and we don't know who he is. He's a ghost." And to this day, I remember it vividly.
And that's the only time you ever saw him.
Yeah.
But
Never
you would
saw
go
him
to that
again.
house a lot?
Yeah, all the time. Not since I was like really young. They've moved since then, but
Who is that? Your aunt?
my aunt, yeah.
So it was only one time you saw this figure,
Mhm.
and you were 5 years old.
As far I believe I was really young. I don't remember my exact age.
See, this is my issue with it. I'm starting to believe that something exists, spiritually speaking, where I don't know. I don't think there's everyone that dies becomes a ghost, but I think if someone that might be like haunted or something, I don't even know because I haven't seen any yet. But I believe that when people say they've seen a ghost, I believe them. But I have a hard time believing children with ghosts.
Well, I mean, the thing that I think sells the story is the fact that my aunt was saying, yeah, a lot of people have seen this guy.
That's what sells me on your story a little bit too, because there's always that story where it's like someone at like I don't know, like a comedy club. They're like, oh yeah, they're the ghost of the comedy club, and like all these other comedians are like, yeah, I've seen him.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to your aunt.
Yeah, well, I mean, next we'll have her on the next show, maybe. Probably not, but
So no interaction. He didn't touch you.
he didn't touch my little kitty butthole. No.
I didn't even mean it like that at first. I just meant like.
No, I mean, we talked. I can't remember what about, but I definitely spoke to him. There wasn't.
Wild.
I don't know. I can't remember exactly.
And you weren't scared.
No, because I didn't know he was a ghost. It was just a guy sitting in the hallway to me.
How are you not sure it wasn't just a guy that just came in or like was, oh, let's mess with the kid?
Well, I can't. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. Maybe it was my uncle just fucking with me, and my aunt decided to get in on it and say that people have seen him before, but I doubt it.
I believe you. I want to believe.
I have faith that it was real.
I do too.
I'm not a religious person, and I'm not a big believer in outrageous supernatural things, but I believe that happened.
I'm dreading the day it happens, but I am welcome to. I'm open to it.
Yeah, well, to me it's like aliens kind of. Like we don't know that they're out there, but I think that it's definitely people say they've seen them and stuff, and I'd like to believe those
I
people.
I believe in that kind of stuff too. But my thought on Alien is like I don't think I'll ever be face to face with an alien, but I could see myself, turning down the wrong hallway one time and there's a ghost.
Yeah, I actually sometimes still worry about that when I'm like when I'm home alone, certain like hallways and stuff, like if we're from the basement.
Sure, I do too. But I mean, you know what makes me feel a little bit better about that? A movie like Ghostbusters, where you watch and you're like, you know what, these ghosts ain't so bad. They just want to have a good time.
They just want to slime and eat some hot dogs.
Exactly. Even when they're trying to be scary, it's like what they just make a face
Yeah.
and that's it.
But yeah, that
Okay,
was my
well,
experience.
thanks for your story, Adam. Spooky. I'm gonna have to go to sleep now thinking about that.
You'll have nightmares. Hopefully you don't, but you probably will.
I'm sure I will. So, where can the people find you, Adam? Nowhere?
I'm on no social
You
media.
don't want to give your phone number out?
I'll have to get on the social media, I guess.
So if you have any questions, any comments you guys want to send us, you could email us at thegreatestmoviesnevermade@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at thegreatestmoviesnevermade on Twitter. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know any improvements we can make on the show, any episodes you want to hear in the future. We're always open to new ideas here. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to you guys listening next time.